This video is going to be a film study preview of the Washington Commanders offense, but specifically Jayden Daniels, some of the things that are unique to his game, some of the concepts that Cliff Kingsbury and the offensive staff there are using that are actually ubiquitous or almost unanimously moved across the NFL landscape. And then I will break this film down into four sections. Look at pass plays. I think that Daniels shares the ball to multiple guys. He doesn't seem to be a quarterback who focuses only on one player, although Terry McLaurin does have 36 targets through 5 games. Also going to look at how his mobility, his athleticism, limits the defensive coverages that opposing teams can play, especially on third downs. As Ravens fans, we should be very familiar with that. It's the same exact dynamic that exists with Lamar Jackson in the backfield. Finally, I'll look at a couple of his scrambles and then how they use him in the option game. It is incredibly similar to many of the concepts that the Ravens have used in the quarterback run game for the past 3 or 4 years. Washington comes in averaging 31 points per game, number 1 in the NFL, in fact. Daniels, specific to him, 77% completion percentage. So obviously very efficient on only 26 attempts per game. He has 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Washington has 13 rushing touchdowns on the year. I think they're third overall in rushing yards. They're a very balanced team from a run-pass standpoint in terms of output yardage. Probably one of the more balanced teams across the NFL along with Baltimore. I think that Kingsbury's got really smart utilization of Daniels' athleticism. Again, there are some striking parallels in terms of the scheme, the run schemes that are used. And it's not just the play and the concept, but it's the when and where it's used and to which side, in fact. Here's how far it goes as far as how the similarities between the run concepts with the quarterbacks. If it was the 2025 season and for whatever reason I had no idea who was coaching the offense for Washington, I would swear that there was a member of the Baltimore Ravens staff running the offense there, or at least involved in the run game scheme creation. He shares the ball in the pass game. Like I said, I don't think he's overly focused on one guy. And here's the point that I'll make about that before we get to the film. There's 7 guys overall with 10 targets or more. That's not that much of an anomaly compared to the rest of the NFL, but this part is. Austin Ekeler is 11 of 11 targets to completions. Luke McCaffrey is 10 of 10. Noah Brown is 9 of 10. I think when you have 3 guys that far down in the pecking order in terms of targets being so reliable, I think that's incredibly unique. Eckler's obviously a guy who came over from the Chargers. He's contributed to that 13 rushing touchdowns. Daniels has multiple. Robinson, the other running back, has 5. I think the run game is the first place the Ravens have got to start to stop or slow down Jayden Daniels and this Washington offense. Excuse me, that's not where we're going to begin this film study. We're actually going to talk about the pass game and how he shares the ball, number 1. Number 2, I think they use no huddle for a lot of reasons. It sounds like they use no huddle more often than most teams. So one of the elements that I think is maybe sneaky good about what they're doing is the no huddle stuff. With the NFL Plus subscription, you do get information or data that tells you whether a team is huddling or not. It'll basically say no huddle shotgun. I think they're using no huddle more than pretty much every team in the NFL. Could be wrong in that regard, but it seems like it's a lot. Number 1, I wonder if it's because Kingsbury wants them to get to the line quickly and see what the defense is lined up in so that he can continue to communicate with Daniels as long as possible. As you know, the communication, the one-way communication in the helmet is cut off at 15 seconds. The quarterback has no ability to communicate to Kingsbury or the offensive staff over there. I think that it's still live up to 15 seconds, even if you're lined up, but I could be wrong there. In any case, they're very efficient, and I suspect that's playing a role, meaning Daniels and Kingsbury are on the same page in terms of what they're seeing, their preparation, but also the elongated communication that Kingsbury is getting to Daniels just before the ball is snapped. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. It's certainly not that idea is certainly not thrown out there to minimize anything that Jayden Daniels is doing. Look, I'm a Ravens fan, Lamar Jackson fan, and for years we had to listen to people say that the offense and the things he does or did were not sustainable. In no way, shape, or form am I going to listen to that bullshit about another NFL quarterback who is, at this point in time in his rookie season, really playing well. This is a 4th down against Cincinnati, and it's going to be McCaffrey from the top side of the field, getting to somewhere around here in the in between the hashes, and then moving over top of the linebacker. He's going to catch the ball in this area here. He's not isolated on the linebacker. That's kind of a misnomer. He's running through the space the linebacker is responsible for, and then because the Bengals are playing man down here on the backside X, McCaffrey is 100% on catches to targets this year. Pretty cool. I think you've got 21 personnel, but 2 actual running backs, 1 tight end. Zach Ertz having a career renaissance there, of course. So backside slant to Noah Brown. The reason why I'm showing completions to so many guys, I think, and this is just my instincts based on watching 4 games film, I think that Daniels is not a guy overly focused on one player. I think he's wherever the ball is supposed to go, that's where I'm going to look. That's where I'm going to read. Again, I think perhaps the communication in terms of, when I say it's elongated once they're lined up. If you're not huddled, you get a longer period of time, to my understanding, you get a longer period of time to see the defense and hear your coach's communication at the same time. If that is the case, I think it's brilliant, number one. Number two, I do think they set people up. Now, this is going to be similar looking play from 2 different games, but I like what I see in terms of how often they're using the same formation to give 2 or 3 different play looks post-snap. So it's 12 personnel. I would call this ace gun. A star concept. There's multiple names for it, so it's fine if you don't use that, number one, or if you want to say I'm wrong, that's fine. But a star concept, we would say, is a middle receiver, typically a running back in a check down, 2 deeper hook routes, comebacks, whatever you want to call them, curls at 12 to 14 yards, and then chip releases out into the flats. The Chiefs use this a lot, but so do many other teams. I do think that perhaps Daniels has an opportunity to maybe fire this football in down to the bottom side of the field. I think it's McLaurin, but I could be wrong. The Cardinals have dropped out in zone, and keep in mind also the ball's on the far hash, so what looks like a throwing lane here between these 2 guys is really a far tighter window than anyone would expect from this angle. If you had it from Jayden Daniels' angle, it would look like a really close window. It widens up a little bit as he works through his progression, comes back over to, I think it's Bates for 9 yards. Same formation. Again, on the play before, we had star, deep comebacks, chip release, and then the running back in the middle of the field as a check down in front of the linebackers, almost to try to hold them as much as possible. Same exact look here, except now McLaurin is down here running a vertical. He's going against Cam Taylor-Britt, very active and physical guy, and McLaurin beats him deep. I think those 2 guys' connection on deep routes is really solid, Daniels and McLaurin. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing his name. Number one, number play. We've run this look a couple of times. Now let's come back to it as, again, we're talking about same formation from 2 different games, Arizona and then Cincinnati now. Point B, similar, run a couple of concepts, give a similar look later on, and they feel like they've got people set up. Slippery, athletic, able to get away from people. This is a 3rd and 13 against the Browns last week. Heavy pressure. We know the Browns like to play a lot of man. This is kind of a weird little coverage variation by Cleveland. In any case, Jayden Daniels escapes on his 3rd and 13, and he's going to find his most reliable target, McLaurin, for 66 yards. Matchup here might seem ominous for a Ravens defense that's given up a lot of points. I actually think that in some ways this matchup plays into the Ravens' hands a little bit because of Washington's reliance on the run game. Now, the no-huddle aspect of it, I think, tips the scales a little bit towards the Commanders, and Kingsbury and Daniels gives them a little bit of an edge. So I am very interested in that dynamic. How often do they go no-huddle? How early in the game do they utilize the no-huddle? And then what's the returns on it? What are they getting out of it? This is a 3rd and 5. Not really an opportunity here for Daniels to run, but this is Luke McCaffrey, again, who is down their pecking order in terms of targets, but running a little slot out against man free. We know the Browns play a lot of man free, playing them twice a year. We see that. Daniels trusts pretty much all the guys that are out on the field. That sounds like a plain organic statement that should apply to every quarterback in the NFL. It does not. There's many quarterbacks in the NFL that look to a particular player in pretty much all high leverage situations. This is Zach Ertz, I think has 17 catches on 24 targets, 3rd and 4 against the Giants. The film is kind of grainy here. Forgive me for that. Some of the film that I have is a little blurry. So you're getting the number 1 receiver on an in. Ertz kind of like with this little post corner look, bringing it back to the sideline. Daniels reads it, knows where he's going with the football now. Takes a hit low, in fact, but he has enough arm strength to get the ball out there to Ertz for 21 yards. I think that the width of the field is threatened because of how many guys Jayden Daniels is willing to throw the football to, number 1. Number 2, I think that the width of the field is also threatened more by his legs, and he removes, just like similar to Lamar in some ways, he removes or limits your coverage options. Basically, I don't believe you can play man-free with a 4-man rush against Jayden Daniels. Just similar to the same way I have said that about Lamar Jackson for the past 3 or 4 years. Because if you're playing man and your back is turned, multiple guys' backs are turned, and he turns and runs upfield, there's literally so much space to run onto. So this is a shield concept for McCaffrey in the slot. He's going to run his little out route on a 3rd and 4. It actually ends up being a little bit short, I think a yard short. But you can see what they're trying to do. They're trying to get the receiver to the outside shoulder of the corner. He's unable to do so. The corner Turner gets over the top. This is how the Ravens are going to have to play some of this stuff. It'll depend on who the receiver is in terms of whether we go over or under those picks or shields. Dax Hill jamming the number 1 receiver. Turner going over the top. Daniels gets it out quickly. We're focusing on him. But these are some of the things the Ravens have seen a lot of so far in 2024, pick, rub, shield concepts, because we play so much man. All right, a guy who is underrated, I think he's on his 3rd NFL team, is Zaccheaus, number 14. Really good on 3rd downs. I think he's a guy that Daniels is comfortable with getting the ball to on 3rd downs. I think he's a guy that they kind of scheme things for on 3rd downs. Just a 3rd and 4 against Arizona. Empty formation, obviously. 3-man. Look at this. This is how similar NFL defenses are treating Daniels. This is the same thing that teams do to Lamar. 3+1 rush. So a 3-man rush. You want to call it a spy, that's fine. But he's just a guy who will fit based upon how the quarterback moves around if the pocket. If he does, that's oftentimes used on 3rd down against the Ravens. If you don't recall, if you're a Ravens fan, you're listening this long, don't remember, it's exactly what the Kansas City Chiefs did in the 4th quarter against the Ravens in week 1. So it's another shield concept. The receiver is trying to get to the outside shoulder of this DB. It's the corner's job up there to that side to kind of press him further inside than he wants to go. I'm talking about the number 1 receiver to protect his teammate. Basically, you're pushing or hedging a pick in basketball away from your teammate, the guy who's defending on the ball. In this scenario or in this comparison I'm making, Zaccheaus is the guy with the ball in his hands. I know it's a bad comparison because it's football and Jayden Daniels is actually throwing the football out there, but in the comparison or analogy I'm trying to make, this is the guy with the ball. And this is the guy setting the pick. You want to move him off that spot. He is actually moving in this analogy again, but you're trying to press him to the inside such that the DB can get over the top. Look at the difference here. These guys have run into each other, actually collided helmets. Very different from the way DJ Turner was able to defend it on the previous completion of Luke McCaffrey. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. Zaccheaus, they also line him up in the backfield a significant amount of time. Very versatile player, smaller guy. I think he was with the Eagles. Prior to that, I believe the Falcons, but I could be wrong. Little China out, change of direction guy, quick, great feet. It's a 3rd and 4 against Arizona again. In the 1st quarter, the game is tied here, a 1 running back set, so 11 personnel. The Ravens are going to have to deal with McLaurin one-on-one, oftentimes, in my opinion, whether it's Marlon Humphrey, whether it's Brandon Stevens, whoever. Last one, he's in the backfield here. Really cool post-snap movement by these guys in the backfield. If you ask me, it's a joker set. So you're getting split flow, essentially triple option, and a huge gain up the right side, 27 yards for Zaccheaus on a 3rd and 5. Again, I think they look for him on 3rd downs at times. I think they design stuff. Robinson's going underneath. They're making it look like they're running some kind of zone up to that side. Reverse pivot by Daniels. Zaccheaus wide open in the flats. Ravens have their hands full dealing with Jayden Daniels. But he also, I think, does a nice job of being a facilitator. You have to give the offensive staff credit for that, for the design of it, the scheme of it, and calling those play calls at the right time. Sure. I think you also got to give Jayden Daniels credit because he's willing to get the football to many guys. There doesn't seem to be any ego attached to who necessarily gets the ball. Little play action from that same formation I diagrammed earlier, and he's going to be a problem for any NFL team. I think he's got 200 yards rushing so far. He's going to be a problem to deal with if you cannot keep contained. And so if your edge defenders end up on the inside, I'm not saying you can't have any inside moves, but if they end up hedged too far inside and Daniels is able to get outside the pocket, your second level players, linebackers, nickel safeties, dime linebackers, DBs, are going to have a heck of a time deciding, do I cover someone or do I go ahead and go try to get Jayden Daniels, who's difficult to tackle in space anyway? It's 3rd and 4. I don't know that the Ravens are going to do much 3+1 spy. That just doesn't seem to be in their nature. Here, Daniels is looking to the right side on this 3rd and 4. Those are drive killers. Those are defense killers because you think you're getting ready to get off the field, but instead he's the best option. Is just not the best option because he can find the lane. There's 6 gaps there. Conceptually, if your running back is able to help out at all and either chip or destroy a potential pass rush, give him a little bit more time, he'll find the lane. The Ravens, I think, this week was an interesting week to bring in Dean Pease as a coaching advisor on the defensive side of the ball. 3-3 after this week, I think, is quite large. Finally, another 3rd down, this one against the Giants. 4-man rush, able to get out of there. He's short. Actually, I'm sorry, he does get the first down by a yard. Let's look at some of the run concepts that I think are, if you change the uniform color, it would basically be Ravens stuff. And I don't mean Ravens stuff just from 2024. I mean Ravens stuff from 2023, 2022, and in some cases dating back even to 2019. This is a dual read. And they seem to use this more often down in the red zone. And that's what I would say the Ravens do as well. So the tight end, and you will get the end zone angle so that because this film is quite grainy here, the tight end and the running back are both reading the edge defender into the boundary. Again, it's not just the similarity of the play concept and the execution, what they're reading. It's where they do it, in this case to the boundary down in the red zone. So you can see that the tight end and the quarterback are both looking at the edge defender. Since he steps down, kind of boxes down, quarterback's going to keep it. Tight end loops around. Additional to that, the receiver goes to get the safety. The corner is way too, and the tight end are both reading the edge defender. Let's say the edge defender was to go upfield. Let's say he was just to run upfield violently to take away Jayden Daniels. Well, then it's going to be a give to the running back, obviously. And the tight end isn't going to be on the path he was just on. He would loop underneath of the edge defender and go get frontside inside linebacker or maybe the safety. And what that would do is it would give Robinson the opportunity to wind it back off of that secondary later block by the tight end. That's not what happens here. Just for explanation purposes, you can see Thibodeau steps down. The wide receiver gets the safety to the boundary. Tight end looping around. Daniels following him on the read, hence the term, or these things in practice for years. This one is ridiculously similar. I'm going to show you this one, and then the Ravens running the exact same play and from the exact same formation in the exact same part of the field. It almost looks like someone on the Ravens staff and someone on Washington staff kind of communicate and or they just copy shit from each other occasionally, especially as it relates to the quarterback run game. So this is another dual read, and it's out of jokers with 2 tight ends on the field. So the Ravens are in an unbalanced set, guard, tackle, tackle. And then here is guard, tight end. To the left side, the top side of our screen, that's Derrick Henry. And this is the second tight end. So you've got 12 personnel by the Ravens, unbalanced set, dual read option, out of jokers. There's the read man for Lamar. I actually think this is almost damn near an auto give with Likely just looping outside. I'm not too sure Likely's actually reading it, to be honest with you. Because of the situation, because of the unbalanced line, the Ravens probably feel like if they do give it to Henry, then Henry's going to be able to stack behind this extra offensive lineman over here to the side and find a gap, find a lane. But as it stands, Lamar keeps it against the Cowboys, 9 yards, touchdown to the left side. We'll go to the end zone angle. Oh, excuse me. Let's go to the end zone angle. I don't have it. My apologies. So we're back to the same play for Washington that I kind of prefaced this with. Look what you have. Unbalanced offensive line, guard, tackle, tackle. Guard, tight end here. The second tight end, I believe, is there. I could be wrong. You got 2 running backs in the backfield. It's a running back executing the dual read. You have the same exact setup. The edge defender comes upfield a little bit. Daniels keeps it behind the running back. The same exact play, same exact concept, formation, in damn near the same part of the field. I think that's pretty interesting. You do get, look, NFL teams often run a lot of the same concepts, don't get me wrong. But to see such similarities, to see such stark parallels is pretty funny for me, number one. Number two, it'll be interesting to see the way that the two fan bases interpret the other team's quarterback and their ability to run the ball. Me personally, I can be professionally detached some, or at least I try to be, and recognize that it's just a brilliant scheme. It's just a brilliant scheme, and the quarterbacks are able to execute it. This is another similarity between the two. Actually, the exact same formation and exact same play. Arc release by the tight end out of trips closed, 11 personnel. So the running back and the tight end are on the same side here. With trips receivers to the field. Running back, tight end, same side. The tight end is going to arc release now and go get the corner, or perhaps front side, inside linebacker sometimes, but generally the corner. And what you're doing is you're isolating the boundary side defensive end. The boundary side defensive end, boundary side safety, in this case for the Bengals, have to be responsible for diving the camera work. So rewinding time a little bit for Baltimore, you will get the all-22 from this. Running back, tight end, same side, to their left. Obviously not the same part of the field. We're not down near the end zone. We're actually backed up to our own end zone. Arc release by Andrews. Here, going to get the boundary side corner. In this case, it's Diggs. Sorry, Andrews there. You're losing him on the frame. You can see the mesh between Lamar and Henry. Reading the edge defender. This one happens to be a give to Henry downhill for 12 yards. The similarities in the run game as far as the quarterback stuff are pretty uncanny. And I kind of can't wait to see how the teams defend each other, because they're both using the same offensive concepts at times in the run game. They're both have ridiculously athletic quarterbacks that they are used to seeing on a give read or a keep read. I wonder if either team is just going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers mentality and say, we're going to run upfield and we're going to run at you if there's any read situation to force a give because we don't want the football in your hands. That's what the Steelers do to Lamar Jackson generally. But like I said, same formation, trips closed A, running back, tight end, same side. Now, when I saw this stuff on film earlier, I guess actually last week before the Ravens played the Bengals, I gathered some Washington film. I just kind of chuckled. And the more film that I gathered and organized, I was like, this is amazing. It almost makes me wonder if there's someone on Washington's staff that has a history in Baltimore. But in any case, it was a fun film study for me to try to complete for you guys, whether you're a Ravens fan or a Washington fan. There are short yardage similarities as well, whereby on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, the offensive coordinators kind of trust the quarterback to make those reads, and they tighten things up a little bit on the offensive line because they're only trying to get 1 or 2 yards. I think the Washington offense is very dangerous, obviously, leading the NFL in points per game, 31 points per game. Jayden Daniels, dual threat quarterback, whatever you want to call him. I really don't care. He's effective at running the ball. He's effective at throwing the ball. He's getting the ball to multiple targets across the width of the field. It's not focused on one guy or one part of the field. Great. I do think that the Ravens' ability to stop the run is going to be tested here by the option game, but that's a source of strength for Baltimore, is stopping the run. If they are able to slow down or stop Washington's run game for large periods of time, force them to be one-dimensional. Now, look, that's scary sounding for the Ravens because of how bad we've been against the pass when teams, in fact, have been one-dimensional. This looks like a team that we want to make be one-dimensional, just from a statistical standpoint. Almost 1,100 yards passing, 892 yards rushing. If the Ravens are able to hold the running backs for Washington below 70 to 80 yards combined, somewhere in that area, and keep Daniels in the 35 to 40 yard range maximum from a scramble standpoint, if we can hold Washington to 120, 130, maybe 135 in the run game, we can make them be one-dimensional for large stretches of the game. They start to get to the 150, 155, 160 range in terms of overall run game output. The entirety of their offense is in play. They'll be in multiple 2nd and 4s, 2nd and 3s, and I think have our defense at their mercy. It's a dangerous game for both teams, in my opinion. Washington should be confident. They're 4-1. Don't get me wrong. The Ravens fan base, at least, myself included, is worried about the matchup from a defensive standpoint, trying to slow down Jayden Daniels and Washington's powerful offense that's averaging 31 points per game. The specific nature of it, kind of like boxing, matchups at times can look different, even though two guys or two fighters have performed differently against a third or fourth or fifth fighter. When they match up with each other, the matchup can look drastically different. This almost looks like that to me. If the Ravens are able to stop and slow down the run game like they have so far in 2024, then Jayden Daniels and those guys enter into a different dynamic where they have to throw the ball more than 26, 28, 30 times. I'd like to see the Ravens get him in the 35 to 37 pass attempts overall throughout the course of the 60-minute game. Doesn't mean that he can't execute it. I mean, I led with showing you Jayden Daniels throwing the football accurately on time to multiple targets. So that's not what I'm saying. I don't look at the game in a simplistic manner like that. But I think that's the Ravens' path to victory from a defensive standpoint, trying to change the dynamic on Washington, on Jayden Daniels, on Cliff Kingsbury. Those guys have really set the league on fire through 5 weeks. Appreciate you guys' time, man. If you enjoyed this film study preview, this look at Jayden Daniels and the Washington offense, but Jayden Daniels specifically, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media so other Ravens fans and Commanders fans can enjoy it as well. Appreciate you guys' time.